What's going on, everyone? Patrick here. In this question, we're told that the graph of the square root of x is vertically compressed by 1 over 3, horizontally stretched by 3, translated 2 units left, 5 units up, and reflected in the y-axis. So we have to write the equation of the transform function, and then part B, we have to take that equation and state the domain and range for it. So notice we're given all the transformations in words. And from the words, we basically want to figure out what's the A value, what's the K value, what's the D value, what's the C value. What are the transformation values? And once we have those, we can simply just plug them in into this format. This is the transformation format for the square root of x, the parent function, square root x. Right, so let's go through the list here. So vertically compressed by 1 over 3, we know that that affects the A value. The A value is 1 over 3. Then we're told there's a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3. So that's going to deal with the K value. Now, if you remember, the factor that is given, the K value is always the reciprocal of that factor. So since there's a horizontal stretch by 3, the K value is 1 over 3, the reciprocal of 3. The D value translated 2 units to the left, so we know the D value is negative 2. And then 5 units up, C value is positive 5. There's also a reflection in the y-axis. A reflection in the y-axis means that the K value is negative. So instead of positive 1 over 3, we simply got negative 1 over 3. If it said there's a reflection in the x-axis, then the A value would be negative. But in the y-axis, it means the K value is negative. Right? So those are the transformation values. And the trickiest one is probably the K value. You just got to remember when they're talking about horizontal stretch or compression by a factor, the K value is always the reciprocal of that factor. And vice versa. If you're given the transformation values and you have to state what the actual transformation is, when you state the factor, you want to flip that K value. And you always want to take the absolute value of it. All right, so taking these and plugging it into here, we would simply have the A value is 1 over 3. And we got root negative 1 over 3 for the K value. And then x minus negative 2 is like x plus 2. Remember, it's always the opposite sign of what the D value is. And then the C value is positive 5. So that there is your answer for part A. That is the equation of the transform function when the root x goes through those transformations. Now for part B, to state the domain and range, what I recommend is taking this and graphing it. Now you can put this through transformations, which we've done tons of questions on, but what I'm going to do in this question, just to switch it up a bit, is I'm just going to sort of do this by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the graph, root x, the parent function, and then I'm just going to look at these transformation values and sort of do it by freehand. So a vertical compression by 1 over 3, that means that it is vertically compressed. So that means that that transformation would be like this. And then there is a horizontal stretch by 3. And a vertical compression and a horizontal stretch, that's pretty much like the same transformation. So the fact that this got horizontally compressed and then horizontally stretched, we can pretty much just say that this here is the transform function for both of those transformations. But if we wanted to horizontally stretch this even further, then we can draw another graph like that. But I'm just going to keep it with this graph here. And then what? Notice that this is also reflected in the y-axis because the K value is negative. So that would go here, like that. and then it moves 2 units to the left because the d value is -2. So that means this vertex here at 0 and 0 is going to be here now. at -2 and 0, and then it's also moving 5 up, so that would be up here. So the vertex would be at -2 and +5. So that would be like that. So roughly, that's how the transform graph is going to look. And when they're just asking for the domain and range, you just have to provide a rough sketch. It doesn't have to be exact with transformations, but I do recommend that you take this graph and put it through transformations and make sure that you get something very similar to this. Right? And then from here, since we have that vertex of -2 and 5, and we know which way it's opening, we can state what the domain and range is pretty easily. So the domain, notice the x values can be anything, but they have to be less than or equal to -2, right? All of the x values are less than that -2. And then the y values can be anything, but the y values have to be greater than or equal to +5. Because this is opening up, it's going upwards. The minimum y value is +5 there, and then all the y values are above it. Right? So that there is the answer to part B. So this is the equation of the transform function. That's the domain and range of